So this week we are wrapping it up, starting to do revisions. And there's just a couple things that I've been thinking and noticing as I've been watching and reading all of your drafts. Then I was watching Spies in Disguise, which is a kids' movie with my son, and I thought, what a great example of how we have to remember that even if we're talking to other experts or other educated people, that we have to check our tone, think about how we're defining things, and know why it's important that we're explaining things to our audience. So I'm going to show a couple clips, and it shows the characters who Lance is actually played by Will Smith. So he's going to be your audience, and you're going to think about being Walter. So that's the boy that is trying to be the scientist and is the scientist, but kind of forgets that he needs to explain things or how he needs to explain things to people. So here's the first clip.
We had a drink. So what are we talking about here? Light bending camo suit, adaptive response silicone fit. Blah. Diet stuff has a weird aftertaste. What's the tech?
Well, you just drank it.
Drank what?
The tech. Now it's gone. Yep.
No! Why do you have a pigeon?
Oh, yeah, okay, that's just Lovey. She's my roommate. How am I gonna do this?
That's weird.
This is bad.
I have a pigeon in your
No,
house.
it's not. It's amazing. It's science. Here we go. You just drank an ingestible formula that uses a CRISPR-Cas9 genetic editor to resequence your DNA on a molecular level. Science rocks.
Wow. Okay, here's what I need you to do. Pretend like you're a normal person talking to a much cooler normal person.
In precisely 45 seconds, you will transform into a pigeon.
I'm out.
Wait. What you're about to experience is the future of espionage.
Okay.
You might be experiencing some mild discomfort. Or severe. I'll make a note of that.
This is because I fired you, right? Okay, I'm gonna walk out of here.
Yeah, that might be hard because you're in the middle of chromothripsis.
Okay, might pass out.
Oh, you're definitely gonna pass out. Your genomes are being smashed apart so they can be reassembled with pigeon DNA.
Muscle it down, Lance. Muscle it down. Oh! What did you do? What did you do?
Whoa, you're entering phase 2. Epigenetic modulation. Think of each gene as having a switch, and one by one, your switches are flipping to pigeon. Human pigeon. Human pigeon, human pigeon, human pigeon, human pigeon, human pigeon, human pigeon, human pigeon.
Stop with the lies! Wait, look at my hand! What's happening to my hand?
Baby hand.
This is the fireworks! This isn't so bad.
Your body's being flooded with endorphins to prepare you for the immense physical pain you're about to experience.
Wait, say that again? You poisoned me!
Poison? That's not even my department.
Squeeze the poison out.
That would be that.
3 seconds. Gonna be fine. Trust me.
Here we go.
Ha!
What? Oh, that clock's fast. It worked. Subject's vitals are stable. Inserting rectal thermometer.
All right, so the takeaways from this scene are how Walter is communicating science. And the first thing he does is he tells Lance he's going to experience some mild discomfort, and then has to change that to severe. And that's something that we all do when we're describing things, but that can be particularly dangerous when we're trying to describe science, since those terms are subjective. So try to remove those, or you could say something like discomfort may be mild to severe, so that there's a spectrum. There are options that you're giving your readers. The second key piece is that Walter uses the scientific terms throughout. So he says something, he uses the terminology, he shows an image of it, but then he explains it in simpler terms. And when he does that, he's not using the abbreviated terms or the acronyms that may be associated with them, except for DNA. The ones that are more commonly known are okay, but once we start getting into the different tricky ones and multiple abbreviations per article, that gets really difficult. So the way that this helps is that to keep the scientific terms in and then explain them doesn't dumb it down, and make sure that if someone were going to look this up, they could do so with accuracy. But then you have these explanations. And then the third piece was his metaphor, which helps your readers to better understand the definitions or how something is working. So here he's using the metaphor that genes are like a light switch, and he's turning the light switch off and on. And so these things seem silly even to include in our papers, but they can really help your readers visualize and understand, oh, okay, this is a new concept that I'm not familiar with, and now I understand how it works, which allows me to be better educated and make better choices and decisions about this topic. So the next clip I'm going to show talks about how we define things, or even if we remember to define things. And what I love about this is that his explanation is so misinterpreted, which is something that I always do when I'm reading your work and I'm making comments. Does this mean this or this? And they could be something completely opposite from one another if there's not that simple explanation with some details after. So Walter tells Lance that the failed concoction is not good. And Lance says, not good as in. So he needs that definition. And a lot of times we're tempted to say Merriam-Webster's dictionary or some other source defines this term as. And that's not exactly what we're looking for. That's more of a textbook academic tone. So if you can think of saying, the word or the concept which means this, or which is similar to this, that can be a way of defining a term without talking down to your audience and without being too technical or academic. So then Walter says, not good as in, if you drink it, all your cells will catch on fire. So he's not using the technical terms there. He's really noting what Lance needs to know as the one who would drink it, and really thinking about the audience and how he's going to understand this, what's going to happen to him, because that's what is the most difficult part. Then there's another part to this clip at the end that I think really just summarizes the way that we should think about science writing and the importance of science communication.
It's ready.
Finally.
May I? Not this time, Lovey. Thank you.
Ow! Joker?
Well, that's not good.
Not good as in it'll taste bad, but still turn me back into a human?
Not good as in it won't turn you back into a human, and if you drink it, all your cells will catch on fire.
Come on, man!
I'm sorry. I'll figure it out. Science is all trial and error.
This isn't a science lab. If I don't stop this guy, people will die.
You don't think I want to stop him too? Why do you think I'm on this boat? Do you have any idea of how much motion sickness medication I'm on right now? I can hardly feel my legs. But I'm here because I believe together we can find a good way to stop the bad.
I know you do, man. But it's a fantasy. When the bad guys hit you, you hit them back. You hit them so hard that they don't get back up. You gotta fight fire with fire.
When we fight fire with fire, we all get burned. There's no good guys or bad guys, just people. And people are worth saving. Isn't that our job?
All right, so this is probably my favorite scene in the movie, and if you haven't seen Spies in Disguise, I would encourage you to do so. But I think it's really great how it connects kind of the purpose of science writing and communication, and how Walter really is advocating for his readers, for his audience, for the people he's trying to help. So if we can keep that tone as science writers, where we're not saying, you need to do this, or you have low blood sugar, high blood sugar, but instead saying, if we can do something, or even just saying patients that did this saw these benefits. That way, you're still letting people make their own decisions, and you're feeling more like you're inspiring them or motivating them rather than talking down to them. So that's what I really like about this. And that quote actually came from Lemony Snicket. I don't know if any of you saw that or read the series, but Daniel Handler was the author. So just something that I think is a great way to wrap up our last few weeks with this thought and think about how you might change your tone a little bit in your revisions, and if this changes your perspective as a writer or as a scientist as well. So I hope you enjoyed this short, actually long video.